Hey guys, welcome back to another SSL UF platform update video. I'm always happy to make these because it means that my workflow has gotten easier and now I can make your workflow easier. Or if you're just curious in the UF platform, you can see what it really can do. Welcome back to all my subscribers, but if you're new to the channel, my name is Steve Kinney. I'm a producer, engineer, and content creator here in Nashville, Tennessee. I cover all things UAD, Apollo, and Luna. Now at the time of making this video, the SSL 360 update that I'll be referring to throughout the video has been out for a while. However, I haven't been able to make a video on the topic because I've been in Australia. When I got back from Australia, I moved and bought a house. And additionally, I just had a baby. So to say I'm busy is an understatement. So we'll be talking about the update to SSL 360 and how that affects the UF platform, my workflow enhancements, and this will also act as the install guide for my preset, which is free. You can go get it at thestevekinney.com, where you can support the channel further. You can also book one-on-one time with me directly there to help with your productions. So let's talk about the updates for SSL 360. You probably already know them, so I'm not gonna dive into them too much, but I just wanna touch on them. The most famous update is the SSL 360 link. I don't have a UC1 yet to add to my workflow. I probably will get it soon, but the 360 link is their new plugin to map third-party plugins outside of the SSL ecosystem and map directly to the UC1. You can also use that to map to the UF1 and UF8. I've fooled around with it, but it's a little clunky. But the biggest feature that I found useful is that they added extra customization to the UF1 and the UF8. So now you can customize pretty much every button on the device. You can give it different colors, and they brought those features over to the UF1 as well. That opens up a totally new realm of control and possibility and capability for your workflow. Now, I'm not going to go into the rest of all the other details of what they did with SSL 360 in the 1.7 update. SSL came out with a great video, so go check that out if you're curious on every detail. All right, so let's jump over to the UF platform and take a look at how my workflow has improved. All right, so we're going to kind of be doing this in two parts, only because my current setup here in my new space is a little crowded and I kind of had to not use my old desk and kind of do this makeshift thing. So I don't know that you can really see both of them very well. So we'll just kind of take it one at a time. So obviously, if you're going to be in your project setup phase, you've got your markers across the top on the very first bank, which is cool. And then you've obviously got create new track, create new instrument track, and then create new bus, which follows the exact same scheme again up here. So you got audio instrument and then bus up in the top left corner of the device. And once you've created your markers, you work through your project, cool, no problem. You're gonna move over to page 1, which is part of the tracking phase. Some of this could obviously also be part of the MIDI tracking phase as well. Yeah, you've got Luna-based commands here, Luna engine kind of stuff. So you got new group, duplicate track, new tracks, etc. Then you've got more along the lines of editing commands. They're gonna be like this orange color. You'll see that. And then you've got mixer and playback engine kind of stuff is going to be like this yellow. And then anything that's like destructive is red. So I've got delete track here, which obviously, like say you don't want a track in your session. Let's just say it's this bass track, right? I come here, I hit delete, and then that's deleted it out. Let's do another example. All the way up here, we've got our drum MIDI. I can hit delete, and it's gone. All right, now, yeah, let's check out versions as well too. So if we're on this drum MIDI, if I hit version down, you can see I'm cycling through my versions, and that's cool. I can version up. The reason and the thought process behind version up being second is that as you add all of your tracks, you're not gonna be versioning up to the next new version. You're just gonna hit new version. So you're more than likely gonna start off by going version down. That's kind of why I did that. All right, page 2. Page 2 is kind of where you get into some of this MIDI workflow stuff. So now you can kind of bank between the two pages. It's still gonna make sense. You've got split note. You can octave stuff. So if you highlight a bunch of notes and you need to octave them higher, you can do that quickly. You've got access to the quantize menu and quantize command. Now, the interesting thing here is that this is also editing. So now you're seeing this consistent kind of color and color scheme kind of play through. The next color scheme is this kind of pinkish color scheme. And this is nice. So you've got track lane views. We're on left pan, right pan, mute, on or off. And then here's the volume, which is the fader automation. This view in Luna is known as the clips view. So that like you can't go in here and edit any of this MIDI if it's like that. So I usually cycle back to the clips view once I'm done editing something, right? But if I want to edit something, I go back to this view. And then of course, resize session. That's going to resize your whole session really quickly. Going on to page 3, you've got mute clip. So if you want to just mute a clip, let's make this one bigger again. And let's just select this. I want to mute it. Now it's muted out of the timeline. That's pretty handy. And we're also kind of now in more of an edit phase. You know, so we went from project creation, tracking, and MIDI tracking, MIDI editing. Now we're kind of more in just editing, right? So we've got mute clip. We can add fades. So let's go check out an audio clip. So like right here, right? Say you want to add a fade into this section. Well, you know, you could just highlight this and press F on your keyboard, but you can just click here and press there as well, rather than highlighting anything. And I find that this is really easy to kind of get into Fang finger workflow. As I've highlighted and deleted something, I can even use the scrub wheel here, or I can use the scrub wheel on the UF1 and kind of scrub over to the spot that I want, press fade. So you can work really quickly that way. And then here is a great example. You've got split wave. That's literally just gonna create a split, which is nice. Groups on or off, that could be very useful and handy to have when you're in this edit workflow, because if you're working on drums or groups of tracks at once, you might wanna toggle that on and off while you're working. And then you've got zoom wave in. Of course, you've got resize session, which is in the same spot as before on page 2. That doesn't move. And you notice too, it says split wave or split note. Really, it's the same shortcut and the same command, but I kind of wanted to keep the nomenclature kind of in line with, hey, I'm working on MIDI on this page and audio on this page. So you've got zoom wave in. Let's bring this track back up. Zoom wave in is going to actually just make it easier to see the waveform. It's literally doing that. And then if you want to reset it back to normal, there you go. It's one button press. Page 4, you're going to get into, again, some more editing. You've got reverse wave. So if you want to create an effect and reverse the track, that's what that's going to do. And then you have this icon that says transient forward. So a lot of times if you're trying to time align drums, you want to go to the next transient. So just this button press will move you forward to the next transient. You can see on the screen, that's what's happening here. And then you've got nudge forward, nudge backwards, nudge backwards, nudge forwards. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then you've got those track lane views again. Again, if you're in automation or if you're trying to go and time align something, it's useful to kind of jump back and forth into those views. Now page 5, which is really page 6, this is the experimental features, and this gets really cool. So I've got a convert UAD2 to UADX. This is going to take every UAD2 plugin in your session and convert it to UADX. So if you're going from real-time tracking to post-production mixing and you just don't want to worry about DSP, press that button and it's going to convert everything all at once. And then you can go backwards and do it the other way too. You can go from UADX to UAD2. You can also turn all plugins on or off. So let's go to the mixer and let's do this, right? So first we're going to do mixing. So here's a great example here. You have a couple of these UAD2 versions of the plugins that we just converted from UADX. If I press this button back, now it's going to work through and convert all of them over to, you see my computer's thinking about it here, but it's going to convert all of them to UADX. There you go. Now you notice that the EP34, they haven't made that a UADX plugin yet, but the ones that were flipped over, which is really cool. And again, you can go back and forth on that. The next one is all plugins on or off. And you can see now I press that button, all of my tracks here have been bypassed, and you can see that it's flashing over here. All extensions, all processing is off. Then easily turn it right back on. That's really cool. The next one is destructive. It is clear trash audio. This is not an undoable operation, but I wanted to have that in there because a lot of times at the end of the session, I've built up a bunch of stuff that's in the trash and I just want to make the package of audio smaller. So press one button, that's that. Now these two shortcuts are really, really handy. A lot of times I get given session files that have like an overhead left and an overhead right, And so I'd highlight those 2 tracks and just press convert to stereo. So let's show you what that looks like. So let's look at these 2 tracks here, right? I've got them selected. These are a left and a right. Let's go ahead and just convert that to a stereo track. I press this button, and then there you go. It shows up in my mixer, which is really handy. Again, I use it for drums all the time. Then you've also got hide tracks. So if I wanted to hide these 2 tracks, I just press here. There you go. They disappear from view. Now that is not an undoable operation for whatever reason, FYI. And then this one's really cool too. If you are in Apollo tracking mode, you can turn ARM on or off. It's just handy to have it there. One of the really cool things is that they didn't just unlock this V-pot, they've unlocked here, they've unlocked, where else have they've unlocked the automation, so you can put in whatever you want for that. And also this send and plugin. So before I had a plugin key somewhere across the soft keys, and I got rid of that because it says plugin here. And that to me in my mind just makes more sense to just hit plugin, and now it's gonna ask, hey, which one do you want to control? I click on inserts, and then there you go, that's pulls that up. Again, I don't really know that I enjoy the plugin control on the UF8 or the UF1. I think the UC one is going to be really cool, but I don't have that one. So it's there if you have it. And then of course you also still have focus mode. So pretty neat. Now pan is kind of your escape out of here still. So you press pan, you're back. Now, as for my custom kind of function here, I didn't really change a whole lot on the rest of this board, but what I did add is a solo clear button, and this is really handy. See, as soon as I press solo here, I can solo clear just like that, which is really kind of cool. That's very console-like. Now I do have focus mode, but I did make nudge something else. So nudge will now zoom in, and I find that to be faster than using these buttons to kind of zoom in. Got it? Cool. Let's jump over to the UF1. So the UF1 is not much different in terms of just color scheme, right? And also operation. So the way that it works here is you've got 10 pages and you bank through the pages through this right key. And of course, if we're on page 1, that's going to correspond with the VPOTS page on the UF8. So you start here on page 1 and then work your way back all the way to the final page. And of course, you're going to start out with new marker and sends and cues. If you're setting up a new session, you're probably going to be setting up cues. Hold this down. You can pick a cue to mix from. You can flip faders and control that way. It's really handy. Same with sends. Pick a send, send number 1. There is no send 1 on this track, so all good. You hit pan to escape. Now page 2 is tracking, and you say you're doing a take and your artist is going, this isn't the take, just cut. Just hit abort record and stop. That prevents you from actually keeping that audio file, which you might not want to do, so kind of handy. Of course, this is your transport master, so you've got scrub. That's not going to be any different. You've still got the ability to zoom in here. That's cool. You've got record arm, and it also acts as bus spill if you're on a bus. And then you've got input monitoring turned on. You've got loop. Now, for whatever reason, loop in Luna just works really weird. I don't know why, but it just does. So a little funky. Click on or off, that's easy. And then 1 and 2 are your different views. So 1 is going to cycle between the timeline and the mixer. And then 2 is going to be if you have any floating windows open, aka plugins, you can hide them real fast by pressing that button. I never ever use this shift feature, but if you hold this down, you're going to get access to the automation control. That's why it's 1 labeled underneath, and then it's also color scheme is the same as the automation section on the UF8. Transport is transport. This mixer function is mixer. You got pan, solo, cut, mute, whatever you want to think, select. Channel encoder is going to cycle through. That's cool. You could hold this down and change it to focus mode. That'd be fine too. That might be handy, especially if my mouse is right here now. I can just reach for that. Now, moving on to page 3 is probably going to be when you're editing. You've got snap on and off, and you've got grid size. So that's really handy while you're doing stuff, you're flying around, you're editing. And then this has remained unchanged so far on the UF1, but this is my comping section. So, you're gonna version down, version up, highlight a section, copy and paste. Again, color scheming, right? Markers, purple, it's the beginning of your session. Red is destructive. This pink is kind of like timeline oriented, view oriented. Orange is editing. Then you get to this purple color again, kind of ran out of colors here, but you've got consolidate, which is going to consolidate the WAV file. Export clip is going to export the WAV file. And then you've got mix down. So this is going to be when you're finished with your project. You've also got save and save new version. Luna kind of took out the save new version from the menu because I think it confused a lot of people. It's basically like a whole new version of your project. So if you had a remix that you needed to do, so if you press this, that will come up. And you can still access this by going up to open version. You come up here and you can see the different versions. And if you actually had a new version, it would have its own collapsible menu. All of these that you see on the screen are bookmarks. So that would be this save function. And I hit that, it says save bookmark. Now there is a hidden experimental section on here as well. You can see I'm a soft key 7 of 10. You go to 8 of 10 and I've got save as a new template. So I just press this and I can create a new template and that's cool. I've also got view alerts. And so I can pull up my alerts on screen here. And that's whenever you load the session, right? You can see that. Set bar 1. Now I probably wouldn't ever use this, but if somebody sent me a track that wasn't done via click, you could start building your own click track and align it using these commands. So you'd set bar 1, align the bar, align grid. It's complicated and tedious. I probably would never do it, but it's there. And then this is just something funny, baby faders. So press this and you get baby faders on screen. Pretty cool, hidden function. And then of course on the modes for this thing, if you hold this down, you can go to general DAW, DAW faders, or meter plugin. Typically stay in here or here. If you hold it down, you can kind of select it this way, or you can just kind of cycle through. That's the fastest way, is just cycle through. Now we're on this meter mode. This is how you're going to access the VU meters as well as the real-time analysis. Now, one more really cool feature, and this is something that I really like about this new SSL 360, the new 360 plugins. In the 360 mixer, you can actually control a ton of your session via the UF8, UF1. And all you need to have on here, it basically turns it into a virtual SSL console. And all you do is you just have a bunch of instances of a SSL 360 enabled plugin. In this case, I'm gonna have a bunch of SSL 4KBs. And then from there, you would launch SSL 360. You can see it come up on my screen. I'm gonna navigate over to the plugin mixer. You see all of my tracks initiate. Now, this is where it gets kind of weird because you also need to change and reconfigure these fader banks to correspond with what you see on screen. So that's where you need to go to your layer. And so like on the UF1, if you hold down 360 layer, it says layer 1 is Luna, and then I have none, and then plugin mixer. I would need my UF1 to be on plugin mixer. And now you can see that it actually has changed. The fader itself moved because now it's representing the plugin mixer on screen. But the cool thing is that you still have access to the sends and you can still mix here. And then of course you also have all of the parameters on screen too. So I can change my mic pre-gain, and this kind of becomes more like a plugin controller, but you're really only controlling the 360 plugins. But the power of this is that you're kind of mixing on a virtual SSL console. So really find this fun. Of course, you get more colors and you get the full name of the track, which is also really handy, makes things visually more appealing and easier to understand. But then also the track color follows the select key. So as you cycle through your track, maybe I should show you on the UF8. All right, so over here, let's go layer 3. Now we're on, and you can see here that these are different colors for these tracks. If I bank, it's only gonna show me what I have with the 360 enabled plugin. But if you see on the screen, I am changing the fader positions of the plugins and not my Luna session in the backgrounds. The other thing is that I'm on plugin. So if I deselect plugin, now I am controlling Luna in the background. And if I press plugin again, my screen changes and I'm controlling the plugin fader. When you do have the plugin deselected, now you can choose your sends and how much to send. So you see here, I am in the SSL 360 mixer, but I now have my ability to control my sends. And of course I could go sends on fader here by using flip. And if you look on my screen, Luna is being controlled via the 360 controller. And I can jump through my sends super quickly. I wish that this was how it worked natively inside of the Luna profile for the SSL UF8. So I think it's a limitation of how the MCU is coded with Luna. So I don't know if it's a Luna developer thing or if it's an SSL developer thing, but this is how it should work. So if we're on the traditional UF1 and UF8 setup through Luna, I'd hold on my UF1, I'd hold sends down, and it says pick a send to display. And I do that, and then it'll display all of the optional or controllable parameters. And then this is how I'd get to sends on fader traditionally, which is, again, kind of clunky. You got to hold a couple different buttons to get there. But if I'm in this other layer, I can just access it by choosing which send I want to control. And it's so quick. It's great. Then I can just jump back to this layer. So kind of interesting. It's almost like you get to the point of where you want to go to mix down, you're done editing, and start throwing a bunch of 360 enabled plugins on there solely so you can mix within the virtual console. Really nice, really cool. All right, so to get to installation is really straightforward for most of the installation process. Remember, the experimental features are experimental. So because of that, that's going to require a bit of manual work on your part when you go to install it. But for everything else, it's really easy. You're just going to take the preset file and navigate to Documents, SSL 360, and drop the respective XML file into the proper folder. So UF1's XML file goes in the UF1 folder, and then UF8 goes into the UF8 folder. Really straightforward so far. Cool. We're going to go here to SSL 360. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is expand this up in this left corner, right? Now you're actually going to see where you can load the profile. So for the UF8, you come up here, click load, and then you choose version 4, click open. I've already loaded it, so I'm not going to do that. Same thing with the UF1. You come up here, click load, and then choose the UF1. You're good. Now here's a huge asterisk that I can't work around unless you want these templates to be paid for. I give them away for free. I don't want to charge for them because it's just something I'm already doing. But if you want me to go back and do this, I can. But here's what it is. So in my preset, it saves it under layer 1. And if you tried to put Luna as layer 2 and load my preset, that won't work. So Luna has to be on layer 1. If you guys want me to do that, I can port all of this over into a layer 2 version and a layer 3 version, but that's just going to take time, at which point I'll have to start charging for this preset. But just let me know in the comments if you think that that's something I should do. And now for the final bit is the experimental installation. Now the experimental side of things requires quite a bit of work because we have to use something outside of SSL 360 first and then go into 360 and start. Well, I've already done it, so SSL 360 you wouldn't have to do anything. But if you wanted to change this up for yourself, so let's go to page 5 here, and you can see my labels UAD2 to UADX, UADX, UAD2. All of this is experimental, and you can see that it's just a keyboard shortcut, which I've already done. But in order for this keyboard shortcut to work, we have to create the keyboard shortcut in Mac OS in order for the application to recognize that this is even an option as a keyboard shortcut within the program. To do that, we have to go to our keyboard panel. So I'm going, where is it? I go System Preferences, and we go to Keyboard, and then right here we go into Shortcuts. And then we gotta go over here to App Shortcuts, and you can see here that it says All Applications, and then right down here there's a Luna one. So basically all I've done is I click the plus button and I have to choose an application. In this case, it'd be Luna. And now it says, enter the exact name of the menu command you want to add. So let's go to Luna. So I'm in Luna, and let's say I want to be able to do that thing where I convert plugins to, you know, UADX. So right here, right? Like you can see convert UAD2 plugins to UADX. It now has a keyboard shortcut, but normally if you just install the program, it does not have that. So that's where you go to actually create a keyboard shortcut for the program. So let's say assign console extension. I want to make that have a keyboard shortcut. What I'd have to do is go over here and I'd have to type in assign console extension, and it had 3 dots after it. Cool. So now let's just come up with a random keyboard shortcut. Let's make it Shift Control Option Command Q. There you go. So we can add that. And now that shows up in the list, but if I go back, now when I hover over this, you can see that it actually has that same keyboard shortcut. So all I've really done is found the commands that didn't have a keyboard shortcut, created one, and then mapped that to the SSL platform. And that's what you'll have to do manually. You'll have to manually go through and actually add all of these inside of your keyboard shortcuts. They're already mapped inside of the SSL 360 platform. You just have to get them there on your side, and that's part of that installation. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're curious what you need to input as a keyboard shortcut, the commands are here, but it's directly inside of the manual. So please read the manuals. That's why I spend the time to make the manuals, so you can have an easier installation process. But that's what I got. That's why it's free. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys think of this new workflow. I greatly appreciate you guys watching and keeping up to date with me as I put out these updates. This has been a super dense video. I appreciate anyone who's stuck to this the whole way through. But until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.